Over the weekend, we saw some pretty horrific pictures on the television news of the North Island of New Zealand. There have been over 100 minor earthquakes, apparently. 2 people are dead and 1,000 people are unable to return to their homes. On the telephone from New Zealand, Andrew Whyte. Andrew, hello.
Good evening. How are you?
Well, I'm okay. We're okay over here. We're a bit cold because we've had a cold snap, the first one for the year, but you've had it pretty rough over there.
We've had a horrendous time here. Absolutely. You're dead right in your reports on the flooding in the Eastern Bay of Plenty. We still remain at a state of civil emergency here, and many people, 1,500 people in fact, have been displaced from their homes throughout the Eastern Bay of Plenty of New Zealand this evening.
So where have they placed that 1,500 people?
Well, they're staying in what we call civil defence welfare centres, which is throughout the district. There's a number of them. One of them is at the Whakatane War Memorial Hall, so they're kept down at the halls overnight, and people have been fantastic, bringing blankets and food, and the coordination with civil defence over here has just been fantastic. We're looking at about $10 million worth of damage to our area.
Okay, and you had some pretty large earthquakes. One measured about 5.4 on the Richter scale.
For goodness sake, if we don't get it all at once, I tell you, it was very, very disconcerting to have all the floods. And then the earthquakes started. We had a swarm of earthquakes and we're still experiencing them. They were centred at a place called Lake Rotomar, which is in the Bay of Plenty, which is inland on the Bay of Plenty. And some of those earthquakes brought down further landslides, creating more bedlam. In fact, one digger driver was trapped between two major landslips across the road, and he only just walked out a matter of hours ago, and his workmates were very happy to see him alive.
And the 2 people that killed, how did that happen?
Well, 2 people were killed. One person was buried by a landslide at a place called Bryan's Beach, which is in the Eastern Bay of Plenty. As you could imagine, there is a lot of embankments along the Bay of Plenty coastline where houses are built under these embankments, and one of those places is Bryan's Beach. And they were out digging a drain. Husband and wife were out digging a drain. Beverly Freeman was the name of the deceased. They were out digging a drain and a huge landslide came down. The husband managed to get away from it, but unfortunately Mrs. Freeman was overcome by the landslide.
And apparently another woman was killed in a car when a tree toppled onto a car?
That's correct. That was at Pies Pa, which is in the Western Bay of Plenty near Tauranga, which wasn't affected by the floods, but the earthquake brought that tree down on top of her.
Was there any warning that this storm was going to be as bad as what it was?
Well, yes, there was. Met Service were on the ball as far as the weather was concerned. We had warnings that it was going to be, the severe weather warnings had been issued. We had that big low pressure system come down from the Tasman. It collided with a front which was coming up from the south, and it stalled it above the Eastern Bay of Plenty for 48 hours. And we had a 300 millimetres of rain in Whakatane, which is down on the coast, and further inland in the ranges we must have got a lot more than that. That's a huge amount of water for our area.
Absolutely. And obviously it's going to take a fair while to clean this mess up.
Well, it is. Well, the clean-up's only going to be beginning. I mean, we're still in rescue mode. Floodwaters are still rising as the water throughout the Rangitaki Plains. I'll tell you what happened there. We have the Rangitaki River, which flows out to sea, and the giant Matahina hydro station is above that, on that river, and they had to spill water to keep the dam intact, if you know what I mean, and that washed down the Rangitaki River, and it overflowed the 100-year stop banks in at least half a dozen places. It breached those 100-year stop banks. So this is a 100-year event, and it flooded the Rangitaki Plains. Edgecombe was evacuated, a place called Titeko was evacuated, and about 150 farms have been flooded. And the floodwaters continue to move as the water makes its way to the coast.
All right, Andrew, we'll leave it there. I thank you very much for that excellent report, and good luck with the clean-up, and let's hope it doesn't happen again for another 100 years. Before
we go, if you'd like to see images, you can on the internet, on this website, ohopebeach.info. That's O-H-O-P-E beach.info, ohopebeach.info. You can see photographs of the devastation here.
Very good. Andrew, thanks for being on the program.
Not a problem. Thank you very much for the call. Our pleasure.